You click for beauty. Albania is in the Balkans, across from Italy, on the Adriatic and Ionian seas. And this is where the story begins. Albania gives you beauty fast. But if you stay a little longer, the picture changes. This is not just a coastline. It is a country of stone. Silence and memory. At sunrise, Tirana does not feel like a place trying to catch up. It feels like a place already in motion. Coffee cups hit saucers before the traffic fully wakes up. Shops roll open. Bread arrives warm. Construction cranes stand over the city like a second skyline. If your idea of Albania is only cheap beaches, this is the first surprise. The country you are about to see is not just scenic, it is changing fast. More roads, more hotels, more cameras. More people saying, "Go now," before everyone else does. And that sentence, "before everyone else does," is exactly where Albania becomes interesting. Because for a long time, everyone else could not come. You will see the famous views, but the views are not the whole story. The places that look most open now were shaped by years of closure. Albania sits inside one of the most crowded stories in Europe, across from Italy, next to Greece, inside the Balkans. This region has watched borders, empires, and identities shift for centuries. So the second surprise is this: Albania is not a remote edge. It is a crossroads, and crossroads create layers. Greek traces, Roman traces, Byzantine traces, Ottoman traces. Communist concrete, post-communist glass. You can stand in one place and feel different centuries arguing in the same frame. That is why this is not just a travel film. It is a reading lesson. We are learning how to read Albania. If you want to understand Albania quickly, start in Butrint. Not because it gives you one clean answer, but because it refuses to. Butrint is where history overlaps. Stone by stone, you move through different worlds. Ancient theater, Roman urban life, early Christian ritual, water and ruins sharing the same air. This place is not only a ruin, it is a conversation between archaeology and nature. And for the viewer, this is the first proof that Albania was never empty, never simple, never disconnected. It was connected deeply, and later it was sealed. That contrast is the key. If you only came for beach shots, stay with me. The next city shows how survival looks in architecture. Then comes Butrint, often called the City of 1,000 Windows. From a distance, it looks almost theatrical. White facades stacked on the hillside, windows staring outward like rows of quiet witnesses. But the real story here is not beauty. It is adaptation. Butrint survived because it learned how to bend. Empires changed, power changed, rules changed, and people kept living. What you feel on the ground is coexistence, not as a slogan, but as a habit. Not every victory is loud. Some victories look like continuity. And Albania would need that skill again on a much harder scale. What happened next did not just change politics. It changed how people spoke, trusted, and remembered. Gjirokastër feels carved, not built. Stone roofs, stone walls, stone streets that climb and refuse the straight line. It is one of the most visually striking cities in the Balkans, and one of the easiest places to romanticize, so let us not do that. Cities like this can hold beauty and control at the same time. Gjirokastër is also the birthplace of Enver Hoxha, the man who would shape modern Albania through one of the most isolated communist regimes in Europe. Born here in 1908, died in 1985. Between those dates, he helped turn a country into a closed system. Until now, Albania has felt layered, resilient, adaptable. The question is, what happens when adaptation is no longer enough? When caution hardens into paranoia? And before we enter that world, I want to show one more thing. Albania was never isolated by nature alone. In the north, around Shkodër and Rozafa Castle, you feel another version of Albania. Strategic, exposed, always negotiating survival. Castles here are not decoration. They are arguments in stone. Who controls the pass? Who controls the route? Who gets to trade? Who gets to stay? And old photographs from northern Albania reveal something many viewers miss. This country was not frozen by nature. It was part of wider flows. Ideas moved, people moved, styles moved. That matters because mountain culture and isolation are not the same thing. Natural remoteness is one thing, state-enforced separation is another. Albania would experience both. And the next landscape may be the most important visual metaphor in the entire film. Then you take the ferry on Koman Lake. For a moment, Albania stops feeling like Europe in any familiar sense. The water narrows. Cliffs rise suddenly. Light moves across rock in slow bands. The engine hum becomes the center of the world. And this is one of those places that rewards patience on screen. Let the shot hold. Let the scale register. What makes Koman so perfect for this story is that its beauty is partly engineered. This lake exists because of dam construction on the Butrint system. So even here, in one of Albania's most cinematic landscapes, nature and infrastructure are tied together. This is Albania in one image. Raw mountain drama and the mark of the state inside it. In the Albanian Alps, Theth, Valbona, and the passes between them. The story becomes physical. You do not just look at the landscape, you negotiate with it. Your breathing changes, your timing changes. Your priorities become simple very fast. Water, weather, footing, light. And then, in the middle of that effort, a table appears. Bread, cheese, tea, something hot. Someone who has done this 1,000 times. That contrast, hard terrain, soft hospitality, is one of the most important feelings in Albania. It is also one of the reasons these mountain routes stay in people's memory. These mountains attract myth-making, blood feuds, ancient codes, hidden laws. Some of that history is real. Some of it is flattened for tourism. Some of it is repeated without context. A better way to say it is this: the mountains preserved forms of social order and honor longer than many urban centers did not, because Albania was backward, but because geography changes how states reach people, and that becomes the bridge to the national story. Control the roots, and you control the rhythm of life. Under communist rule, Albania did not simply become strict. It became enclosed. Alliance by alliance, the country broke away until it stood increasingly alone. This is where many documentaries become loud. They throw facts at you: prisons, police, propaganda, fear. All of that matters. But what people remember first is often quieter. The feeling that speech could travel farther than you wanted. The feeling that walls might listen. The feeling that trust had become expensive. Albania's communist system built a culture of caution so deep that silence itself became a survival skill. This was not only political control, it was psychological architecture. And once you understand that, the coast later in this film stops being just a postcard. It becomes a survivor. If you want to understand how fear becomes physical, go to the House of Leaves in Tirana. Today it is a museum, but the building itself carries the point. This was a surveillance center. Now it is a place of memory. That transformation is not just symbolic, it is practical. It tells younger generations this happened in rooms with wires, with desks, with ordinary-looking doors. Authoritarian systems often depend on spectacle in public, but they depend on paperwork in private. Files, records, listening, classification. What makes the House of Leaves powerful is not drama. It is the banality of method. And once you see that, the beauty outside hits differently, because now you understand what it survived. Then there are the bunkers. Every documentary about Albania mentions them, and for good reason. They are everywhere. On hills, near roads, by fields near the sea. The exact number has long been debated, and estimates vary. What matters for the viewer is simpler. There are enough of them to change how the country feels. They are not just relics. They are a mood left in concrete. And yet, many were reused. Fragments of fear turned into everyday utility. Not a clean redemption story, a real one. If the bunkers show what fear leaves behind, the Pyramid of Tirana shows what a society can do with a symbol after fear. The building was originally tied to the cult of Enver Hoxha. Today, after redesign and reuse, it works as a public landmark and a youth-focused learning space. Inside, young people learn technology, design, and creative skills. Think about that arc. A monument once linked to power and control becomes a place where young people learn to build. That does not erase history. It does something harder. It keeps the structure and changes the meaning. And then after stone cities, surveillance rooms, bunkers, and mountain passes, Albania opens. The descent toward the southern coast feels almost theatrical. The road turns, the horizon widens, and suddenly the Ionian Sea is there, bright and impossible, as if someone changed the genre of the film. This is the moment the title was made for. I wasn't ready for this beauty. Not because the water is blue. Many places have blue water. Not because the coastline is dramatic. Many places have dramatic coastlines. But because here, beauty arrives carrying context. You do not see only a view. You see what endured long enough to be seen. Along the Riviera, places like Porto Palermo and Gipe remind you this coast is not one flat postcard. It is a sequence of thresholds. A bay that feels protected, a fortress watching water routes, a canyon that narrows before it opens to the sea. You arrive by passing through something. And that matters for the viewer. The soft image comes after hard terrain. Maybe that is why these places stay with people. They are not handed to you immediately. You earn the frame. By the time you reach places like Kasamil, it is easy to let the story collapse into cliché. Hidden gem, affordable paradise, the next big thing. That language is useful for clicks. It is terrible for understanding. So here's a better frame. Yes, the beauty is real. Yes, the water can look unreal in morning light. And yes, this is exactly the kind of place to film early before the noise arrives. But Albania is not interesting because it resembles somewhere else. It is interesting because it does not. Mediterranean, Balkan, post-communist, local, young, wounded, ambitious, all at once. And when you reduce it to cheap Greece, you miss the best part. You miss its voice. Now comes the part every rising destination has to face. What happens after discovery? Albania is building fast, attracting attention and opening to the world. At the same time, it is also trying to protect what makes it rare. That is the real test. Not whether Albania is beautiful. It is. The test is whether beauty can remain legible after the rush arrives. And that question is not only Albanian, it is global. I am taking you to Israel and Palestine. A land where beauty, belief, and history collide in every direction. A place where every stone feels sacred. And every story is contested. If Albania taught us how to read silence, the next film asks what happens when every stone speaks,